They're breaking barriers, redefining storytelling, and proving that representation isn't just important, it's essential. Please welcome Academy Award-winning actress Marlee Matlin and trailblazing writer, director, and actress Shoshannah to the South by Southwest studio. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to start with a pretty basic question, is kind of your guys' meeting and how this documentary came to fruition.
I found her on the street. I thought she was pretty. I thought, I'll look her over. Yeah, why not? Let's choose her for the directing of this project. No, actually, we've been friends for a long time. I've known her since she was an actress, and a wonderful actress, by the way. And we are friends for a long time until American Masters came and approached me to do a story about me. And the first thing I thought of was, well, because for the longest time, I've always been directed with hearing perspectives. But knowing, and there's nothing wrong with the hearing perspective, don't misunderstand me, but doing a story about me probably would be different. And I felt that it was time and it would be more personal, that I felt it's time for a change. And that change would be, on one condition, I'll do the documentary, if it's directed by a deaf director. And naturally, I thought of her immediately and mentioned her name. And I gave the name to the American Masters people, and the rest is history.
Copy that.
I remember when we were working together on This Close, a show that I wrote and created, and one of the first people that I wanted, well, really the first person was her that I wanted on the show. And I remember Marlee saying yes and thinking, oh my God, and then she came on set, I was like, okay, perfect. And when we were shooting the dinner scene for the show, it was taking forever because they're having to do many setups and lots of different camera changes. And we were talking, I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but I don't think we were talking about filmmaking. I think we were talking about something else. And then she stopped, paused, looked at me, and I was like, what? And she said, you need to direct. And it wasn't a question. It wasn't, do you want to? She just said, you need to direct. And I was taken aback, and I thought in that moment, what would that even look like? I've never seen a deaf director directing film or TV. I've never seen that in my life. And so the first time I actually saw a deaf director was the first shoot of our documentary, when I saw Marlee directing on the set of Accused. And that's when I really knew what the story was going to be about, and that it was an important layer. What it means to be seen by someone who shares your perspective, and in that moment, she wasn't alone anymore, and I wasn't alone anymore. I just knew, like, it gives me chills and goosebumps, like, I know what the story is going to be.
And I'm glad she listened and said yes to this documentary.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, though, Marlee, I don't think I had a choice.
No, you didn't. I know where you live.
Yeah, it was a statement, not a question.
Yeah, you can't say
Exactly.
that, Marlee. Right.
Shoshannah, for you, I was curious, a lot of times when people have documentaries made about them, they're not, the subject is not always involved, and a lot of times they have no decision making in the process of it. So was there any added pressure, obviously having Marlee be involved and trying to tell like a true story, and one that does her justice, but one that, is honest and open?
Did I feel stressed or pressured? Maybe from just, day-to-day challenges, logistics of making a film, people's availability, but feeling pressure from Marlee, no. I think that is a testament to her bravery, which is profound. Like, I'll say again, like, when you're the first and you're trying to navigate making a path in this journey, you really have to have good instincts. She, for whatever reason, which I don't think that she can express in words, which she doesn't have to, but Marlee just knew how to deliver her life. And she gave it to me and said, make something from this. And so I really took that trust seriously, and I made sure that I stayed true to what I knew her story was in a way that I perceived it. And I feel like a lot of other people haven't been able to see that yet, and I wanted people to see what I've always seen in Marlee and what I think that she sees in herself as well. Like, one of my favorite part of the documentary is just being able to see her face, like her being so young in front of all these people answering press questions for the first time. You can tell she knew that for some reason this isn't the way that it's supposed to be. Even though she was the first and she was alone, she still knew. And I really wanted, like, every time I was being challenged, I just think about that face of hers and the instinct and intuition she has. And that made me feel recentered to just continue to navigate and find the true north of Marlee's story.
Gotcha. Beautiful answer. Marlee, I wanted to ask you, I feel like a lot of people know this, but a lot of people also might not, is that you are still the youngest, you were the youngest to ever win Best Actress. You still hold that record to this day. And I find it so interesting to think, like, in the documentary, how much closed captioning has changed from when you won that Oscar to today. I was kind of curious if you'd be willing to talk about how you've seen it evolve, what you've actually done to put it on a pedestal and to make changes and be a totemic change in that space, and what improvements you still think there are.
Well, as a young girl, I always dreamt of being able to see words on the screen, just like millions of deaf people, deaf children. We all had the same dream. We wanted to be able to understand the words of our world, whatever TV show or program you were watching or movie you were watching, just to be able to see them. And as I got older, and I did my first film, Children of a Lesser God, and having the advantage of the media, their attention, being able to talk about it in interviews, then having the opportunity to express this desire and then turning it into a law, going to Capitol Hill to testify in front of the Senate, all of that together, I made it happen. It became law. And that's all it took, really. It really, for all of us. Then what eventually happened is it became a global effort for everyone, not just for deaf people. And then she elevated it, as she talks about in the film, and made it look better by using captions that made more sense, by knowing who was talking and using the captions to align themselves with the signs. It was really important for several reasons, because what it does is it helps recognize the issue of accessibility on so many different levels. And that's one of the biggest passions of mine that obviously we were able to accomplish.
Perfect. I also wanted to talk about some misconceptions about the deaf community and about deaf actors and filmmakers. And I was curious, like, obviously this documentary is a perfect example that it can work and that it should work and that there should be more. And I was curious if there were any roadblocks you ran into with studios or anything like that, or even just people that weren't aware of how to, like, deal with you guys. Yeah, like
Every day, I hustle. I can't speak for Shoshannah, but I can imagine too she has to do the same thing. Every day, I get up, I say, okay, let's see what it is I have to do to prove myself. I don't know if it's actually proving myself, but fight for, or who I need to call, or who I need to talk to make sense to get into their film, who I need to convince, or who I need to send stuff to, or on so many, I mean, there's so many things I have to check off my list. But it is what it is. And I'm always hearing, you know, Marlee, they love you, they respect you, you're an Oscar winner, you're an Oscar-winning actress. I don't need that reminder. I know what I did.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I've been doing. I appreciate that. I love this. Yeah, I do. I really do. But I want to keep going. I need to bring it to the next level. I want to do what I love to do, what I have been doing.
I think perception it's not really the studio. But studios do have a perception as well. Like even after the documentary had come out, this is the second festival we're attending, and people still have that perception of Marlee. You know, she's an Oscar winner. Yes, but Oscar means something different if you're deaf. And everything has different meaning if you're deaf. Like a director friend of mine that I ran into the last day that we were at Sundance was like, how many meetings do you guys have set up after this? I'm sure you have like 30 or 35. And we both just looked at each other, 0. We have 0 meetings set. Not one. People don't meet with us. But the perception is that, oh my gosh, Marlee's so busy. She has so many meetings. But the reality is there are no roles. Marlee is having to fight for every single role that she's ever gotten. And I think there's one line in the film that I think people miss. Jack says, she gets offered maybe 10 to 15% of roles, but that was probably still closer to CODA, closer to that period of time. I would say now you probably get 100% of roles that you're having to fight and push for and work for. Everything she's ever gotten, she's had to work for. And so yes, she has an Oscar, but still, the system is the same.
Gosh, it's wild for me to think that, but no, it makes perfect sense. And I kind of just wanted, going off of that, to ask, like, for like up-and-coming deaf filmmakers, deaf actors, who are kind of nervous to enter the industry with like this being the reality, what you would say to them, what advice you can give to them, and kind of what you guys are hoping to do with this documentary to uplift them and open more doors.
Well, I think that we're both trying to make space. I think that Marlee really has taken a huge risk, and it was a risk, and she really gambled on me. But because of that, she's also making space that you can't deny. There is space there she's trying to make, and I think that we both really do want to build a village, because really, if I can do it, then yes, anyone can, but you do have to stay true to your vision, and you also have to recognize that you kind of have to exist within the system a different way. Like, people will tell you advice of like, yeah, this is how you're supposed to do stuff in the industry. This is how you're supposed to make a documentary. This is how you're supposed to exist, like an Oscar-winning actress. And no, as a deaf person, you have to find your own truth. And that's what I've tried to do with my documentary, really trying to reshape the form of documentary itself. What does a visual documentary look like using split screen instead of having voiceover? And I mean, that wouldn't have happened if Marlee had picked someone else who has been working in the doc world for a long time. And so I think that's where exciting things can happen. And so it is tough, yes, when you are new and you're trying to make it, but stay true, trust your instinct.
You're right.
And seek out people
You're right.
that are similar to you that can continue to make space.
She's right. And some people think that we're all the same. We all have the same needs, that we need to do the same things that other people do. But navigating works for you doesn't necessarily work for someone else. That's all. If it doesn't work for you, for example, some people think we're all the same as deaf people, but we're not. You have to do what works best for you in terms of navigating your path. It's a tough business. It's a tough industry.
But it's also tough. It's a tough world.
It is.
Right now. It's tough for any deaf person to have any job anywhere in the world. So to be deaf in this world is an act of protest. Being a teacher, a deaf teacher, being a doctor, deaf doctor, it is an act of protest. You do have to be strong.
And you have to listen to your instincts. You have to figure out what's best for you. And if it doesn't feel right, if it's something you love, don't give up. Pursue your dreams. Listen to yourself. If it doesn't work though, find another path. do something else.
I really like what you talk about with the split screen, because I'm like, if like a hearing director had made this, I imagine it would look entirely different, and it just wouldn't be nearly as effective as it is. So kudos to you guys for sticking to your guns, and hopefully making sure that people understand that it doesn't have to be done a certain way just because that's historically how it has been done. I kind of wanted to talk about just some movie recommendations or TV show recommendations. I think this is a great place for people to start. And I was curious if there's any other movies or TV shows, any other works that you guys would recommend for people like trying to broaden their horizons, like learn about deaf actors, learn about the deaf community, anything like that. Like CODA obviously makes sense, but I was curious if there's any others.
What? I mean, you can watch some movie or television show that have deaf characters in them, but there's really no been. I mean, CODA had 3 deaf actors in them that they carried the film. That's nice. This Close, they carried the show. They had a lead actor. They carried the show. Okay, well, it's a TV show. What else are we talking about? There are not that many choices to be able to watch where you see deaf actors starring or carrying the show. They're usually down further down on the list, so maybe they're just appearance, cameo.
I did think Echo did great.
Oh, Echo did a great job. Yes.
There were 2 deaf writers in the writer's room. I was one of them.
That's true. I was thinking actors, but yes.
But
She's a writer, she knows.
But Alakwa led the show. She carried it on her back, and she was a first-time actress, and she was great.
But we need more.
We need more. But what Echo did a great job of doing was making sure that the writers in the room were able to represent the actresses' experience. I think the room was more than half Indigenous writers from 6 or 7 different tribes, and then 2 deaf writers were also in the room. And working in that room was incredible. And I do think we need more of that in creating.
And I'm in development for several projects as well, for film and television. Just a matter of, playing the waiting game to see what happens with the development. Attempting to make people say, it's okay to do this. It's really okay to greenlight this project. Just try me. Try me.
Yeah. Well, I think if this documentary is any example, people hopefully will and should listen. But yeah, thank you guys so much for sitting with me. Congrats on another festival run. That's really cool.
Thank you.
Stay tuned for a theatrical release date for Marlee Matlin, Not Alone Anymore. The film will be broadcast on PBS American Masters in October. I'm your host, Reece Feldman. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much.